The CSU is fully committed to maintaining an inclusive community that values diversity and fosters tolerance and mutual respect, and we welcome all opportunities to engage our constituent groups in conversations about how that broad commitment can be translated into positive policies and practices on all of our campuses. The tentative agreement before the board today for ratification would run until September 30, 2018. Teaching associates and graduate assistants will receive a 3% general salary increase for the 16-17 year and a 2% increase in 17-18. The range minimums and maximums will be increased by 3% in each year. Instructional student assistants will receive a 25-cent per hour increase in each year, and the range minimums and maximums will increase by 50 cents per hour. The parties agreed that there will be no change to the current practices in respect to the award of fee waivers. The parties also agreed to routine labor management meetings to discuss equality and diversity issues affecting Unit 11 employees. Chair Day, that is an overview of the key terms of the agreement, and staff recommends ratification.
Thank you, Andy. Are there any questions for staff on this item? Again, we're going to hear the staff's presentation first on each item, then we're going to hear public speakers, and then we'll come back to take final votes. With that, item 2 is the ratification of the collective bargaining agreement with bargaining Unit 14, the California State University Employees Union, SAIU Local 2579. Interim Vice Chancellor Andy Jones again will present the item.
Thank you, Chair Day. Unit 14 is a new bargaining unit consisting of a small number of English as a second language instructors at CSU Monterey Bay. All employees in this bargaining unit are part-time employees and will be appointed in an hourly intermittent classification to reflect the fact that they do not have regular schedules or a predictable workload over the course of any given academic or calendar year. This is a 3-year agreement, and the parties agreed that instructors would receive an hourly rate of $31 per hour upon ratification, with a 2% increase to that hourly rate in the 2017-18 and 18-19 years. The tentative agreement contains all the usual articles establishing a framework of terms and conditions consistent with other employee groups, such as establishing contractual processes for handling grievances, evaluations, and workload. This agreement would run until June 2019. Staff recommends ratification, and Chair Day, that concludes my presentation.
Thank you, Vice Chancellor Jones. Any questions from the committee or the board at this time? Okay, seeing none, we will now hear from public speakers, from those who signed up to address these agenda items. We have 12 speakers, and each speaker will have 2 minutes each. I will call a few names, and then we'll go from there. Hector Fernandez, Latoro Gallegos, Rehan Asraf, Sandeep Roy, and Pat Gant. If you can come to the podium, and again, you have 2 minutes to address the board.
How you folks doing today? Gotta excuse me, my allergies kicked up a little last night. Wanted to take this time to address the members of the board, the presidents, and the trustees. Being new to this position, I first want to thank Mr. White, the trustees, and everybody for the hard work over the last year to finalize our contract previous this year. Haven't really had a chance to talk with everyone since then. I believe we made a lot of progress in acknowledging what the members of SETC do for the universities as far as the facilities and maintaining them and keeping them running. Moving forward, I just wanted to address a few things going into next year. We're working together on a few items. The first is to analyze the classification standards within the CSU. While it may seem minor, let's think about how everyone's jobs have changed over the last 10 years. What products, skills, are the biggest factor? What has technology changed in your job day to day? These are some of the things that we're looking at to update within our classifications to help bring more awareness of what SETC brings to these campuses and truly define the benefits, short-term and long-term, of what SETC can bring to the universities. The second thing I wanted to address is the reopeners for wages and benefits. Luckily, we're not in full contracts for a few years, but we do have the opportunity to go into wages and benefits. I know it's a topic of concern with student tuition fees, the initiatives going on. So some of the stuff I just wanted to bring to acknowledgement is we want to thank you guys. It seems like you guys are trying to fight for us. The budget increase of the 55 million allocated to extra wages is a step in the right move forward. The increases we've had over the last few years have not been unrecognized, and we appreciate it. We just want to make sure that, you guys are aware moving forward, compared to our counterparts, we are a little bit underpaid. And, I think that's something that we all acknowledge and take into consideration. At the end of the day, I think all of us realize it takes a village to really run this CSU system. And the students are a major focus of the success, but everyone in this room and on those campuses also contribute to that. So I just want to make you guys aware, when we're fighting for these students, we also need to make sure we're fighting for people in the system to maintain that success. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next speaker, please. Next speaker, please.
Good morning. My name is Lautaro Galleguillos, and I am the Financial Secretary for UEW 4123. I would like to thank in advance the Board of Trustees for the ratification of the new contract, as our members have already done. We are looking forward for the pay increases, but more importantly, the new work law rights, which we hope will be swiftly implemented, which will ensure that our members pay for all the time they are working and not taken advantage of. We are also looking forward to a more equitable and safe workplace with better access to all gendered bathrooms and location stations. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Hello. Good morning, everybody. My name is Rehan Ashraf. I'm a student at San Jose State University. I'm a peer tutor at San Jose State, and I teach and assist students. I just got a pay increase because of my union. Thank you very much. But now I'm hearing that, you guys are trying to raise the tuition and everything like that. So every single penny that I'm going to get, you're going to take it back from me. So I don't think is there any point of me getting a pay raise, Like, how do you guys expect me to graduate in like 4 years? Like, meanwhile, I'm worried about paying my tuition, keeping a roof over my head, and paying for my food. Like, I thought like you guys were cared about us as an employee to give me a pay raise. Please care about us. Otherwise, it's very difficult for us as students to study while we're concerned about other stuff. So, like, please pay more attention to us. Thank you very much. And Sandeep will talk in general session more. Thank you.
Thank you. Next. Okay, next speaker, please.
Good morning. I'm Pat Gant, President of California State University Employees Union, SEIA Local 2579. And thank you for this opportunity, Chair Day. So the measure of the relationship between the CSU and the CSUEU is our ability to reach an agreement. So I applaud my bargaining team on our side and the management team that we have an agreement on Unit 14 and we move forward. I also look forward to basically more opportunities to find common ground on system-wide policies, and I also must make the board aware that our full contract will be sunshined at the January meeting. So we have the real test of our relationship will be in our full contract bargaining next year. Thankfully, Prop 55 passed, so hopefully the state of California has significant revenue so that we don't have to worry about more budget cuts. And actually, the legislature, the governor, hopefully will take a more of a aggressive approach as far as funding higher education in the future because of it. And we can actually do some things to meet the needs of California and our students. And certainly the 4-year graduation plan seems to be the major talking point in the legislature, whether it's a reality or a goal only. I do have a request for the CSU campus presidents. We have growing concerns on safety on our campuses. Part of this is a little bit about training. Part of this is about deferred maintenance. Every single campus under our agreement and every other union agreement is supposed to have a campus-wide safety committee and also a facility safety committee. So my request to the campus presidents is to go back to your campus, make sure those committees exist, are meeting and doing the work they are to make sure that this is a safe working environment and learning environment for our students. The world is changing. We have a lot of challenges, and the last thing we need is to have safety concerns in the workplace and the learning experience. Thank you.
Thank you. Sandeep Roy, followed by Susan Smith, Loretta Savitasi, Neil Jacklin, Mike Chavez, and Ricardo Uch. If your name's been called, feel free to come on up in any order. Just please give us your name. Sandeep Roy. You can come in any order, of course. Just please identify yourself for the record.
Susan Smith, Cal State Fullerton, CSUEU Vice President for Representation. I would like to speak about the Unit 14 ratification. We are very thankful to have achieved ratification for this very, very small unit on the Monterey Bay campus. But I want to remind everyone that it's not about the size of the unit. It's about the representation of the people and their ability to gain status as a campus citizen. It's not only about the pay that these employees will receive. They are now able to fully participate in their campus community. They will now receive things such as email, direct deposit, parking privileges, things that maybe you took for granted, but these employees were never even able to check out a library book due to their status. From the very beginning, the system fought our recognition at PERB, and we fought to the very end. However, we did come to a meeting of the minds, and that was due to the spirit of cooperation from both teams. I'd like to thank our team, Nancy Amata, Andy Heller, Gus Leonard, Liz, Cindy, Beth, Lisa, and all the other instructors who went by the wayside during this long process. There are also some folks at the campus that truly deserve recognition. Tamerly Petrovich, in HR at Monterey Bay, as well as John Swarbrick and Neha Shah. We would not get an agreement without the spirit of cooperation in which these negotiations were completed. However, the events of the past week in our country have been really disturbing, and they send a disturbing trend for collective bargaining. The bullying, misogyny, race. And the strict First Amendment rights is particularly disturbing for those of us in the labor movement. I applaud the letters and messages from Anthony Rendon, Kevin DeLeon, Chancellor White, and many of you campus presidents as well. Those were much needed reminders regarding the basic philosophies of our state and the CSU system. However, you all need to do more than write letters and say things. You need to take action. Our campus communities need to be safe harbors for those of us in our community who are not able to defend themselves, either because they don't have the actual status or they do not have the funds to be represented before bodies like yours. We can no longer rely on an imaginary wall that divides California from the rest of our nation. You must stand up and raise your voices. The presidential election cycle provides us an opportunity to see how much things can change in 4 years and how much things stay the same. The things that have changed in this body since I've been here for 4 years, when I look out at all of you, I see that now that women represent almost 50% of campus presidents and trustees. Well done. Well done. But when you take that sense of pride and transfer it to our campus, are our women employees, our staff, our faculty, and our student women employees receiving the same wage as their male counterparts for the same work? They are not. You have an opportunity to lead this nation, to be the model, to be the change that we need to be.
If you could conclude, please. Your time's expired.
I am. Loretta's not going to speak, so she's giving me her time.
All right, thank you.
I thank you all always for your attention and the spirit of cooperation in which we have been able to move forward. I think we can all take pride in being citizens of California and of this university system. And as my time goes away, go Titans.
Thank you for your comments. Next speaker, please.
Good morning, members of the Board of Trustees and guests. My name is Neil Jacklin, and I'm Vice President for Organizing for CSUEU. I would like to focus on the concept of working together in the future. In 2011 and 12, we were looking at deep cuts to the CSU, and that would have happened but for the passing of Proposition 30. By working together, all of us, the faculty, the students, and the voters of California, secured money for the next 4 years. And recently, we have passed Proposition 55 by working together. And I believe this has shown that we are very good partners and that we work well with the CSU. And I would like to talk about Governor Brown vetoing our last bill to have a classified representative staff at the Board of Trustees. And I would like and trust to think that you would consider that next time to actually propose to the governor to have one of our staff on the Board of Trustees. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
My name is Ricardo Uch, CSUEU Vice Chair, Bargaining Unit 9. I would like to talk about the U.S. Department of Labor's implementation of the revised regulations regarding the exemption status of certain employees. These regulations fall under the Fair Labor Standards Act. Yes, it is understood that federal regulation changes and updates must be followed to make the CSU compliant. The revised regulation raises the thresholds of the salary level test from its previous amount. Basically, this revision will potentially affect Unit 91 Unit 9 employees. These employees are currently exempt status in their respective classifications and will be changed to non-exempt as of December 1st, 2016. This change will also alter their classification as new classifications will be created so that both positions can now be tracked as exempt or non-exempt throughout the CSU system. There is a missed opportunity in that the CSU notified CSU very recently, and we just met regarding these changes. Our team would have liked to work with your team in a true partnership alliance with the hopes of rolling out this new transition and making it as smooth as possible. I think most of our represented employees will be blindsided when they are notified of their newly created classification and a change in their exempt status to non-exempt. I am Ricardo Uch. I wish you all a very happy Thanksgiving. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Hi.
Oh, sorry. Any order. Go ahead.
Hi, I'm Tessie Reese. I'm Unit 2, and I'm following Ricardo because Ricardo started with the FSLA comments about our people going from exempt to non-exempt, and it affects our units of Unit 2, which is health support, and Unit 9, which is our IT. And I wanted to just briefly say, and I'm going to go through the list that I have. Unit 2 is the smallest unit, just a little over 500 folks. So Dominguez Hills, there's 2. East Bay, 2. LA, 2. Long Beach, 6. Maritime, 2. Northridge, 4. Pomona, 4. Sacramento, 4. San Diego, 13. San Francisco, 1. Bakersfield, 1. Monterey Bay, 2. SLO, 2. Sonoma, 2. Stanislaus, 2. In San Marcos, 2. The majority of these folks are athletic trainers who work many long hours, who travel with your teams, and because of simply falling below the new salary range of $39.57 will be turned to non-exempt. I'm hoping, and I'm speaking to the presidents, because it's going to fall to your presidents, your chapters, and your campuses to look at these folks, think long and hard about whether bringing them up some very small amount, some a little more, to keep their exempt status so that they can continue to work the long, hard hours that they do now, traveling with your teams, keeping your student athletes well. They're almost like little moms and dads to these student athletes because they are the ones that these athletes turn to. Please look long and hard at this. Look at your finances and realize that they will now be collecting overtime. And for some, probably a very large amount. So I'm reaching out to you, presidents, to look at these. They're small numbers compared to Unit 9, and really look at what these folks are going to be doing for you. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, again, I have Sandeep Roy, Mike Chavez, and then the final name on the list is Rocky Sanchez.
Hi, this is Sandeep Roy, president of UW 4123. I'm a little sick, so you have to excuse me. I don't know if it's the allergies or the election results, either one. I have a quick statement. I have a short statement from our executive board that I'd like to read out about safety of our employees and of of all of us really on our campuses. Like most people who are shocked and stunned by the results of this presidential election, even though we made significant progress in California, the country seems to have chosen a leader who represents bigotry and hatred. The hatred and vitriol has spilled onto our beloved campuses as a result of Mr. Trump's campaign and his win in the presidential elections. There are already reports of harassment of Muslim students and other students of color at San Diego State, at San Jose State, among other campuses. One of our e-board members was harassed and threatened for having a Hillary Clinton bumper sticker on her car. Our financial secretary was harassed yesterday at the airport. Our president, me, I was asked to go back to my country while driving by a church in Fresno. It's getting scary. I mean, maybe most of you haven't experienced this, but people who we're operating in the world are experiencing this. We all need to come together at this time and fight against this bigotry and hatred and make sure that it is known that California State University, the People's University, does not condone these acts. Our members and our leadership and our student body reflect the diverse makeup of the CSU. We are immigrants of color. We are women who don't conform to traditional gender roles. We are undocumented. We're foreign students. We're lesbian, gay, bisexual, trans, and queer. We're Muslim, Hindu, Christian, Sikh, Jewish, and some of us are also atheists. We are the face of CSU, and we are America. So we urge the Board of Trustees, Chancellor White, university presidents, and administration to take every step possible to ensure the safety of all of its students and employees and everyone that's on our campuses. We urge you not to normalize hate speech by calling it free speech, but rather to condemn it. If this election has taught us anything, it is that speech matters and it often becomes action, violent action taken towards minorities and people who are most vulnerable among us. So we urge you to stand with the most vulnerable of us and let it be known that CSU took a stand, I mean, for Pete's sake, take a stand against hatred and bigotry. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Next speaker, please.
Hello, my name is Michael Chavez. I am the CSU EU statewide chair representing our Unit 5 employees. I'm here to talk about a few things that I believe need to be addressed. We have a need for campuses to have a level of respect that is built upon a working relationship based on good faith. At this time, I have been experiencing what I consider a smear campaign from my campus to the levels of this building. My integrity should not come into question or dragged through the mud because of issues that I bring forward. I am just a messenger of these issues that we're hoping to get resolved so that we as a campus can move forward to better serve our students. I've been at my campus for over 17 years now, and I, along with my union brothers and sisters, have always and will continue to be a strong advocate for our campus and our system. But we will forever stand up for issues that affect our members. But when our campuses don't address or even acknowledge issues, then how are we to come to a resolvement? I come from a small town in the Central Valley where integrity is the utmost value. My parents instilled in me at a very young age that our word is our bond. It is a measure of a person's worth. Unfortunately, it is not the same virtue as some of the managers and directors here at the CSU. When we have agreements made, whether it's a meet and confer or a ULP settlement, such as the one at San Marcos, then there is an expectation that both parties, in good faith, will abide by those agreements. We, the CSU EU, have always and will continue to come to the table in good faith. All we ask of the campuses and the CO is the same. That goes on to resolving issues through outsourcing our work. There is much
There has been a few campuses that haven't been or are unwilling to bring in jobs in-house, while other campuses have made great strides to bring our Unit 5 jobs in-house. One of those campuses most recently is Cal State Fullerton. I'd like to publicly thank Dr. Garcia and her team for recognizing and taking the opportunity to bring those jobs in-house. Hopefully, some of the other campuses will come to recognize the importance of bringing those jobs in-house. Bringing the work back to the employees only provides for a better working environment for our students. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Good morning, trustees, Chancellor White, presidents, and ladies and gentlemen of the audience. I want to address my comments to the presidents, and this is regarding the issues of your head residents, those individuals, employees, non-exempt employees who live in the dorms, who are expected to be on call and are tethered to the campus. They're on call 24/7. They work 24/7, and yet they're being told by their directors of housing that they're not eligible for overtime, that this has always been the case, that they are expected to work for free, they are treated as non-exempt employees. This needs to stop. These directors are not only falsifying, stating that they are not entitled to overtime, these are non-exempt employees. So what your directors are stating is not only false, they're breaking the law. So I request very respectfully that you presidents look into this to find out if your head residents, or in some campuses they're called life coordinators, that they are paid or acknowledged in CTO when they go past the 40 hours per week. Thank you.
Thank you. I believe that's all the speakers I have on my list. If I've missed anyone, please let me know now. Otherwise, with that, we'll conclude public comment. I'd like to thank everyone for their comments this morning. Are there any questions from the board at this time or committee members? Seeing none, the committee will now take action on the items on our agenda. The ratification of the collective bargaining agreement with Bargaining Unit 11, the International Union United Automobile, Aerospace, and Agricultural Implement Workers of America, AFL-CIO, is an action item before the Committee on Collective Bargaining. Only committee members may vote at this time. May I have a motion?
So moved.
I have a motion. I have a second. Is there any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. The ratification of the collective bargaining agreement with Unit 11 is approved. Next, the ratification of the collective bargaining agreement with Bargaining Unit 14, the California State University Employees Union, SEIU Local 2579, is an action item before the Committee on Collective Bargaining. Again, only committee members may vote at this time. May I have a motion to approve the item?
So moved.
I have a motion. Do I have a second? And a second. Any discussion on the item? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Chair Ison, that concludes the business of the Committee on Collective Bargaining.
Thank you, Vice Chair Day. Trustee Farrar, will you please convene the Committee on Organization and Rules?
Thank you, Chair Eisen.
Will the Committee on Organization and Rules please come to order? All items are listed on today's consent agenda for approval. One note regarding the proposed November 2018 meeting dates. Chancellor's office staff worked closely with the UC Regents office to mitigate any potential conflict with respect to their November meeting to allow for later meeting dates in an effort to honor and observe National Election Day that will take place on November 6, 2018. With that noted, would any committee member wish to remove item 1 for separate discussion? All right, seeing none, may I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? No abstentions? All right, the consent agenda is approved. I do believe that Trustee Carney has a comment she would wish to make at this time.
Thank you. Let me give you a little background and then what I'm requesting. We can't discuss this because, of course, it wasn't agendized. But a couple of the campus presidents mentioned to me that they hope that the board would talk about the issues of student safety on campuses, since that's a current issue, particularly, of course, for undocumented students and Muslim students. And as I sat and looked at our committee headings and our agenda yesterday, I realized that there wasn't actually a designated place to talk about student welfare issues. And it seems to me that we should have such a designated place on our agenda. I'm not sure this needs to be a separate committee. Maybe it should just be a subcategory for the Ed Policy Committee, since our academic and student affairs matters are combined into one office. But I hope we can take this up at the next meeting so that we will always have a place on our agenda where we take up student welfare issues. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Carney. All right. Seems like a good idea. All right. So, Chair Eisen, that concludes the business of the Committee on Organization and Rules.
Thank you, Trustee Farrar. That concludes our committee work. We will now turn to our plenary meeting. Supposed to hit the gavel. Will the meeting of the Board of Trustees of the California State University please come to order? Ms. Kiss, would you please call the roll?
Thank you, Chair Eisen. Trustee Abrego. Governor Brown, Trustee Carney, Trustee Day,
Present.
Trustee Eisen, Trustee Fagan, Trustee Farrar, Trustee Furstenberg, Trustee Kimball, Trustee Melendez de Santana, Trustee Morales, Lieutenant Governor Newsom, Trustee Nyland, Trustee Norton, Speaker Rendon, Trustee Reyes Salinas, Trustee Simon, Trustee Stepanek, Trustee Taylor, Superintendent Torlakson, Trustee White, Chancellor White. Chair Eisen, we have a quorum.
I can hear myself think for a second. This is the time in which the board hears from public speakers. And we have quite a number of speakers, so in fairness to everyone who wishes to speak, we're asking that the speakers limit themselves to 1.5 minutes each for a total of 30 minutes. There is a buzzer that will indicate when the speaker's time ends, and I ask that the speakers yield the microphone when they hear that buzzer to the next speaker so that everybody will have an opportunity. Ms. Kiss, will you please call the speakers?
Thank you. Hector Fernandez, Elizabeth Sanchez, Norberto Lopez. Thank you, Hector. So Elizabeth Sanchez, Norberto Lopez, and Karen Guzman. Let me come up to the mic.
Hi, my name is Liz. I'm from SQE, and I'm from Cal State Fullerton. Yesterday, I said I wasn't proud to be a Titan, and I think that is starting to change. As a queer student, I felt like a student that just attended Cal State Fullerton. I started my classes in humanities, meeting inspirational professors and students. I started finding my identity as a student, a sociologist, a feminist, and a radical activist. Students at Cal State Fullerton started in the activist group Student Coalition. We started working with amazing groups like MESA and the Black Student Union. This amazing organization entered my life, Students for Quality Education, a group that stands in solidarity for those in need. This group doesn't necessarily speak for students, instead they empower students. This is something I'm told that you're all supposed to be doing. Instead, you all feed into the bureaucracy and take money and spending hundreds of thousands of dollars for yourself and our alleged future. Well, we are here to tell you that we don't need more advisement or success programs. We need full support for faculty, including adjuncts, students, and staff. And if the presidents and the BOT are not quite listening, then Maggie and George, you came out yesterday, you spoke with us, you said you would stand in solidarity with us, and we trust you. So let's please continue to work together. I want to lastly state that I am proud to be I'm very proud to be part of this movement. I'm proud to be part of the CSU. Mildred, I'm starting to become proud to be a Titan because of SQE, because of MESA, because of the Black Student Union, because of queer people of color and all the cultural groups that you're so glad to talk about. But you need to start talking to us. You need to start working with us, just like the rest of the presidents here. You need to start working with the students. We're counting on all of you. Chancellor White, the students that couldn't make it, you need to take these and you need to read all of them. Where'd he go? Can someone get these? These are notes for students who couldn't make it. So you need to make sure to read all of them because all their thoughts are here in those postcards and they're concerned. So please make sure to read them and share them and make sure to work with the students. Thank you.
And just a note on our timer, I think they're getting it to work now, but if not, I will let you know when your time is up. Thank you.
Okay. My name is Isaiah. Dear Board of Trustees, we can't stand for another tuition raise. Why tuition has raised 283% from 2002 to 2012 is beyond reason. You always say that raising tuition is a last resort. Well, given the nature and timing of your last proposal, it seems as though you treat raising tuition as a first reaction. Managing our money better is your priority. Invest in your students, and you invest in the future of the U.S. economy. Increasing barriers to entry by raising tuition is not an investment. $350,000 salaries to our presidents is not an investment. Maintaining low wages for teachers and thereby lowering competition is not an investment. Here's another astounding statistic. The 16 voters of you make decisions for nearly 475,000 students statewide. Of that 16, only one is a student, Miss Maggie White. Ms. White, I commend you for the job you do to represent us and vote for us, our collective student body. Thank you. However, Ms. White is only one person. This one person, this one vote, is the sole representative of the largest and most diverse student body in the United States. Our student body itches to be heard, yet we only have one voice in the Board of Trustees. Dear Board of Trustees, how can we trust you when you only trust one of us? How is it that you have the power to make decisions regarding our tuition without our representation? I propose that our trustees consider adding more student representatives to the board in order to protect against inadequate student representation, to make the board aware of the widely diverse perspectives in the CSU system, to raise our students' awareness of the important decisions being made at meetings such as this one, and finally, to enforce a check and balance with the trustees to make sure that unfavorable propositions, like your student tuition raise, stop before they even begin. I'd last like to share that I'm a student. I'm double majoring in accounting and philosophy, and the CSU system is my only way to make it out of the cycle of poverty that I've been going through. Please, don't make it harder for me. Don't make it harder for my family. I already work 2 jobs. I'm president of my own club. I'm going to be interning with SQE. I'm going to be interning for the Residential Housing Association, and this is all just to make ends meet. Don't raise tuition. Don't exclude me and my family. And one more thing, I have a baby on the way. So please, don't raise tuition. $270 is food for my daughter. Thank you.
Karen Guzman.
Good morning. My name is Paola Niela Leiva. I am here representing Mesa Cooperativa, Lambda Theta Alpha Latin Sorority Incorporated, as well as SQE and undocumented students and homeless students. I am first-generation college student. I come from an immigrant household. My father always helps me with my education. I stand before you today recognizing my privilege, because even though I do come from an immigrant household, and even though my father works in construction to help me with my financial needs, I ask that you, where you're sitting today, recognize your own privilege and realize that there are certain people, certain students that don't have a certain lifestyle. In the CSU system, 1 in every 10 students is homeless. In the CSU system, we have a number of undocumented students. What does that mean? What does that mean to my campus? What does that mean to me? That means that 1 in every 10 students at Cal State Fullerton goes to class, does their work, not knowing when their next meal will be, not knowing where they will be spending that night. That means that the undocumented students that attend the system do not know if they will even be able to use that degree one day, but they still go to school, they still do their work with hopes and dreams. This past election, has done a disservice to America. We have allowed hate, fear, racism, and prejudice and self-interest win. I ask of all of you to please help us fight that by not allowing a bourgeoisie ideology dictate the future of the students in the CSU system. I ask that even though you all have privileges like myself, we all stand in solidarity and we give voice to the people that can't be here today because they're working in fear of whether or not they will be able to pay tuition next year. And I ask that you also stand up and be a voice for my community in the shadows who doesn't know if one day they'll be able to use that degree. Thank you.
Thank you. And before I call the next speakers, just a reminder, please, I'll be calling the names on the list for those who have requested to speak before the board today. So I ask that if your name is called, that you please come to the mic, and if your name is not called, that you please see me after. Thank you very much. So again, Karen Guzman, Mick Bruckner, Erica Zamora, Estuardo Ruano.
So we actually exchanged one of the names for myself. My name is actually Eric Medrano.
And you're speaking for whom?
Well, I'm from San Jose State and part of SQE as well.
And whose place are you taking?
I believe it was Mick Bruckner.
Thank you.
Yeah.
You may begin.
Okay, well, hello everyone. Given the short amount of time that I have here, I'll go ahead and jump right into it. There are many good reasons why students oppose a 5% increase on tuition, and here's mine. This semester, my financial aid just came in about 2 weeks ago due to a system error. Thus, I brought about $3,660 from my sister and my cousin's savings accounts. My family struggles financially, and having to borrow any amount of money from any one of them hurts me and places them in a dire situation on the verge of losing their home. This on top of the $8,000 I've already borrowed in previous semesters just to scrape by and pay off my tuition, buy textbooks, pay for utilities, groceries, pay rent, which is ridiculously high living in the Silicon Valley, and a plethora of other things. This situation is not special to myself, as I've heard many other students receive their financial aid late or have it withdrawn completely due to system or human errors. This affects a large portion of students, especially undocumented students eligible for financial aid. And even if students do receive financial aid, it is never enough to cover living expenses. You fail to address the real reasons as to why students do not graduate within 4 years. I'm currently working 3 jobs and in debt, yet you still contemplate such a ludicrous idea as raising the already high cost of tuition, further exacerbating the issue. I urge you to stop treating the CSU like a corporation simply to produce the highest yield of human talent at the expense of the students' sanity and their freedom. Thank you, and I hope you consider my story as a student attending San Jose State.
Rosa Barrientos from Sacramento State. November 8th shook my entire life. For undocumented students, it took a turn for the worst. I came back home and I had to prepare my 13-year-old sister for the threat of deportation. I explained to her the procedure, the simple fact of opening the door in case it was ICE. How do you explain a warrant to a 13-year-old? Let alone give her that responsibility at such a young age. I broke down. How do I leave my family here in LA and go back to Sacramento? As a DACA recipient, I don't know when my work permit will expire. If it expires January 20th, I will have to drop out of Sacramento State. I I shouldn't have to drop out because this is my dream of getting an education, something I worked so hard because of my status. How am I going to afford my rent, my food? How will I come up with the rest of the tuition without my 2 jobs? Although these are the feelings from the president-elect, it's not the first time I felt them. USSIS was on my campus at Sacramento State. There was a vehicle parked outside the well, and nobody knew why. For 2 days, the administration at my school didn't know why. They had to go outside to the Congress member that represents this area to find out why they were on campus. Do you know what that means for undocumented students? 2 days not knowing why an ICE vehicle was on campus? It's uncertainties. For me, it's the fear of being deported. Not only me, but at the community I have at Sacramento State. 2 days where the world of undocumented students at Sacramento State, it froze. So many of them could have dropped out because they didn't know why they were on campus. What's worse is that frustration, we expressed it to our administration. And you know what they let happen? Last month, they allowed Customs Border Patrol to be at a career fair. Not one single email, nothing to warn us. I had to stand up. Yes, we protested them. But you know what's the worst part? Having to be strong for your peers. Having to have a strong face and let them cry on your shoulder. Having to hear them say, how do I act normal? How do I act as a U.S. citizen so they won't know I'm undocumented? This is harassment from Sacramento State and the CSU system. I was never afraid to say I was undocumented. Yes, I'm undocumented. Yes, I'm proud. But this is too much. Sharing with you all that I am undocumented is scary. Doing an action on campus to protest these entities is scary because I don't know what type of retaliation I will get because I do not have the support.
Thank you, Rosa, for sharing your comments. If you could please
I'm not done. I demand that Chancellor White and the Board of Trustees, that you make the CSU system a sanctuary institute because this is not allowed. I will not back down. I am the documented students of the CSU system. There's over 800 at Sacramento State, over thousands in the CSU system. You owe us for us to feel safe. I demand a sanctuary campus, a sanctuary institute where I do not have to fear for my life, where I do not have to tell you that I might have to drop out. It's on you, on all of you, if undocumented students have to drop out. It's on you if I don't come back to Sacramento next semester because you are not doing the procedure to make me feel safe on my campus. This is for all the documented students in the CSU system.
Thank you. We'll proceed with Estuardo Ruano, Pat Gant, Susan Smith. You can come to the mic in any order, please.
Hello? Okay, that works. Good morning, Board of Trustees, Presidents, and Chancellor Timothy White. My name is Estuardo Ruano. I am a student at Cal State Dominguez Hills and the SQE President. I would like to begin by thanking Michelle Kiss for granting me the opportunity to speak today. In addition, I would also like to show my gratitude for President Hagan. He is an integral part towards the progression and future of our university. I have listened to the concerns of the students, and I have witnessed the issues that the Cal State University system is facing. It is time to start coming up with solutions. We are creating a bubble with the student debt. $1.4 trillion in student debt. Just like the housing bubble and the dot-com bubble, the imminent crisis that is building our student loan system is going to cripple our economy, and it is damaging the well-being of the students carrying the burden. I want to propel us forward and find solutions together. I'm here up today to establish communication between us, Students for Quality Education, and you, the Board of Trustees. I extend an invitation to all of you who want to see progressive changes achieved to discuss possible solutions together. I recognize that the board is aligned with us in wanting to make our CSU system better. Raising tuition is one of the many paths that can be taken to achieve our common goal, which is to provide a high-quality education to the students in California. I am confident that we can establish a positive relationship to benefit staff, faculty, students, and administrators. A better tomorrow begins with today. And today, I am extending that invitation to establish a legacy that you can be proud of that serves and benefits everyone. Education should be an investment, not a burden. And I am certain through our intellectual resilience that we'll create a positive environment where education thrives in. I hope you listen to my plea and take into consideration what I said. And I'm welcome to work with all or any of you. Thank you.
Good morning again, trustees. My speech just went out the window, but I wanted to follow up on a part of my comments based upon comments from Trustee Carney and the brave young woman from SQEU. Last night at the Labor Council, I shared a memo that Tim White gave to me that he had sent to the campus presidents regarding DACA individuals and campus police, where the university police will not be agents for the federal government. That's fine. But based upon what the student has said, and there are DACA individuals, students and employees. There are employees in the bargaining units I represent that are DACA individuals. They are Dreamer students. They went through the educational system. They got their degree and they chose to work for the CSU. They're your employees. They're your students. If we all work together, the CSU can make every campus a sanctuary. Please do it.
Just wanted to let you know that Susan has yielded her time to me. I'm Loretta Savatasi. I'm also on the list, so I'm just going to go ahead. Good morning. Loretta Savatasi, VP for Finance, CSUU, and I work at San Francisco State University. I want to speak on two items from listening and observing yesterday's committee meetings, namely Educational Policy Committee and most importantly, Finance. I enjoyed the presentation on Graduation Success Initiative and the rollout of the dashboards for potential students and faculty. It was comforting to hear that this initiative is not about forcing students to complete in 4 years. However, I feel you left one important item which I heard from many students. Housing and food is a major issue. 61% of our students get full financial aid, which, as you heard, is still not enough. Is still not enough for them to meet all of their expenses. Please take that into consideration, because it affects students' ability to finish out at some of our campuses, which has nothing to do with the quality of programs, but the reality of increased costs, yet little to no increase in revenue or funds from the state to support public higher education. Secondly, finance. I'm the finance officer, so my heart goes out to Mr. Storm, Vice Chancellor Relier, because money talks. So the ask for 17-18 is 343 million, which includes 75 million for the Student Graduation Initiative and 55 million for staff compensation above what's been negotiated in contracts. Great discussion. And my first comment is, please, let us listen with understanding. All voices matter, as you've heard from our students this morning. Lastly, plans are just that, but money talks. So our priority as staff, students, faculty, campus presidents, and trustees is to lobby the legislature for more stable, ongoing funding for the CSU. We are worth it. Prop 55 is only a start. So let's work together collaboratively to get more state dollars for our 23 campuses and Office of the Chancellor. Together we can do it. Happy Thanksgiving. We have a lot to be thankful for. Thank you.
Neil Jacqueline, Mike Chavez, Ricardo Uch. Thank you.
So will Neil Jackson.
So, Ricardo.
Thank you. Tessie Reese, Rocky Sanchez, William Blishke, Margarita Berta Avila.
Tessie Reese yields to the students, and I want to applaud the young woman who spoke up. Please listen. And that's all. Thank you.
Rocky Sanchez, Chair Bargaining Unit 7, CSUEU from Cal Poly Pomona. I give my time to students.
My name is Margarita Bertavila. I'm here representing California Faculty Association and in solidarity with our students that are here today. I'm here today to ask you to take a step back and reflect on our purpose as a California State University system. I would venture to say that our purpose is one, create change that serves the better good. Change that is more pertinent today, particularly when we live in an era in which silence and inaction is not an option. And two, simultaneously providing our students with quality education that is accessible and equitable to enact the change we all envision as a community. However, I caution us because as a body, we often mistaken my latter statements as one that means service and forget that at the core are our students, a collective that demonstrates every day a resiliency to achieve, not only for themselves, but for their families and all those who did not have the opportunity to be where they are today due to race, class, gender, status, and all the isms we confront. Their very presence is an act of resistance. It is a political act for justice. So when we forget that, we risk justifying inequitable acts, decisions, under the guise of preparing our students for a lifetime of personal and professional success. You might be asking yourself, under what guise are we working from? The contemplation of a potential tuition increase of undergraduate and graduate students that would raise the annual tuition price is an example. On the one hand, you as the board and campuses across the state purport via the Graduation Initiative 2025 that the CSU is committed to improving the opportunities for a more timely graduation for all students. But yet you are asking them to foot the bill to graduate sooner. As you have heard, and we will hear from students that have spoken today, this will force them to work more, increase their debt, place students in dire situations such as homelessness, and ultimately push students of color, low-income students out. Yes, we have heard your argument that 60% of our students receive funding and therefore the impact won't be strenuous, but be careful to speak from a position and not note the experiences, realities of those 60%, and even more importantly, be careful to speak from a position of privilege when you forget our most vulnerable, like our undocumented dreamer students who do not have access to the resources you will claim they have. In asking you all to take a step back and see your students, Across the CSU system, we have over thousands who are undocumented and who have various admission classification statuses. In the aftermath of the national elections, President Trump's first 100-day plan already includes the revocation of Obama's executive orders among DACA, which are important reforms. As my fellow colleague Julia Curry expressed so profoundly in a letter directed to her university president at San Jose State, how will the CSU protect the sacred lives of vulnerable populations from the imminent danger of the newly empowered politics of hate and intolerance in the national government? What will the CSU system do to ensure a commitment to accessible and quality education to all students, particularly to undocumented and vulnerable populations? What can you do, Chancellor White? What will our local institutions do? And that's what I want you to leave with and think about. Thank you very much.
Good morning. I'm Bill Blischke. I am an emeritus retired faculty member from Cal State Dominguez Hills, and I'm president of CSU IRFA, the Emeriti and Retired Faculty Association. And I want to talk about two things. Mainly, I want to talk about the same thing that students are talking about from a retired faculty perspective. But before that, on a lighter side, if you'll please forgive me, I want to talk about one of CSU IRFA's major goals this year, and that is what's called the CSU Million Shoe Campaign. We're trying to collect 1 million shoes for some of the 1 billion people on this planet who don't have shoes. And over 50% of those stay in this country. The rest go to 127 other foreign countries. But many of our students who are talking don't have shoes either, but we have them in our closets and we can collect them. So if you give a certain number of shoes, hours, or money, you will get a pin, a lapel pin, which will call you a Cal State Shoeser. But the much more important thing is to talk about the college affordability crisis. And I'm reading a book which many of you have probably not heard of. It just came out a couple months ago. It has a generic title, Paying the Price, but the subtitle really says it all. College Costs, Financial Aid, and the Betrayal of the American Dream. And it really is a nationwide thing. I'm a sociologist. It's done by a sociologist. It has a lot of vignettes of the kinds of students who've spoken here and what they're going through. It also has a lot of good sociological data. But from a faculty perspective, I spent almost half a century at Cal State Dominguez Hills, half of that as a professor, half as an administrator. And after I FERPed for 5 years, I taught a course. And I quit teaching after I had a class that was so big that to do it properly, to test them, to require writing, and to do the kind of social simulations of class and race relations, I could not do it. So I quit teaching because I couldn't teach the way I wanted to teach. So instead, I flunked retirement and became head of CSU IRFA and a number of other things. But I really encourage, I've read about 3/4 of this book. I'm going to write a review of it. I will share that with you if you don't want to spend the time reading it yourself. I'm going to have it published in the Reporter, which is the newsletter of CSU IRFA, and I'm also going to ask ASCSU to put it in faculty to faculty. But I will personally send the Chancellor and any of you copies of it if you're interested. Thank you. And bottom line, CSU IRFA is often not included, but we can selflessly, we're all retired, we can selflessly help you to raise money to deal with this underfunding. And a good friend of mine just got elected to the assembly in the 66th district, and I'm going to meet with him and share the CSU situation with him. His name is Elmore Suchi, and he's a friend of mine. So I'll lobby him, but I'm willing to work with all of you and lobby in Sacramento for more funding. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, and thank you to all of the speakers for joining us here today and for providing your comments. Chair Eisen, that concludes the public comment for those who had requested to speak before the board today.
Thank you so much. Thank you to all of the speakers, especially those who've traveled great distances to come and share your stories and your passion with us. It is very much appreciated. The next item on our agenda is the board chair report. I had a really hard time preparing a board chair report. I was pretty anxious leading up to the election, and that paralyzed me for a while. And then I was pretty stressed after the election results. Those cognitive studies that say that stress impairs your cognitive abilities are correct. And so I was in a bit of a limbo for a while, but then I got a couple of messages from my daughter that shook me out of it. The first one was sharing her dismay. Many of you know that my daughter is Mexican American, and she was pretty disturbed by the results. But then a couple days later, she sent me another text message and asked me if she could make brown sugar homemade mac and cheese for Thanksgiving. And that helped me to remember that November is a month not only of elections, but of Thanksgiving and of comfort foods. And I think I gained 2 pounds just listening to her description of the brown sugar homemade mac and cheese. But so I began thinking about Thanksgiving. You know, it's such a terrific holiday. Everybody loves it. They get a break from work, and they can spend time with their family and friends. And many families, and we have this tradition, I'm sure many of yours do, they use it as a time to really reflect on what they do have to be thankful for. And I spent some time, as I am wont to do because of that lifelong learning thing that the CSU instilled in me, I spent some time researching the word thank you. Thanks. Where does it come from? You know, it's kind of an unusual word because if you try to think of synonyms for it, there really are no decent synonyms. The closest you can get is grateful, which doesn't quite say it. And it's really an ancient word, goes back to the dawn of civilization. And it is kind of a marker for society. When you think about it, it's a tiny thing, but when you say thank you and when you are thankful, it's a tiny but positive connection that you make with someone else in the world. And this web creates our society and enables us to work together. If you go to a foreign country, the first word you want to learn how to say in that language is thank you. And maybe that's the only word you need to be able to make a positive connection when you go elsewhere. The word grateful, you know, as I said, pops up as a synonym. And so that in the stream of consciousness situation that I'm now in led me to think about the Grateful Dead. Remember them? Some of you remember them. And of course, their most famous lyric from their songs is, "What a long, strange trip it's been." And my gosh, this last couple of years has been a long, strange trip. So with thoughts about, and by the way, that was on an album called American Beauty. And so thinking about America, thinking about thanks, thinking about long, strange trips, always leads me back to my pleasure and in being part of this great institution. I think about the CSU at the very top of my list when I think about what I have to be thankful for. So a couple of things that have happened since our last board meeting. I was able to visit Campus 21 and Campus 22 of my 23 campus visits, and both visits were absolutely fantastic. I visited first San Diego State. Thank you so much, President Hirschman, for that visit. it was just incredible to see that gorgeous campus. I know many of you have seen it, but I had not. To see the treasure of historic architecture that's there, to see all of the beautiful work that they had done with drought-resistant plants in their corridor there, but really to spend time in labs and classrooms with the faculty who were so engaged with students in the process of, cutting-edge research and coming up with, projects that they could work on together. It was really very impressive. And to give you some, we had our presentation yesterday about sustainability, and to give you some idea of how the cross-fertilization goes across the various campuses. Chico State, when I visited there, showed me these amazing umbrellas. There they are. And you see that gray piece on top of the umbrella, that is a solar panel. And it was devised by students, and they created this solar umbrella so that they could A, sit under it and avoid the sun, and B, channel the energy into the core of the umbrella and charge their iPhones and their computers while they were sitting. So when I saw that gorgeous corridor at San Diego State, I thought they need Chico State's umbrellas. This is going to be perfect. So in fact, they are contacting each other, and hopefully that's going to work out. Speaking of Chico State, Fresno State, and Sacramento State all participated in what are called tiny house competitions. And kind of like the Lagomorph conference we talked about last time and Quiz Bowl, these are kind of fun things, but when you think about them, they are tremendously important. These are engaging the students so creatively in sustainable architecture, making sure that we apply our knowledge and creativity to doing good in the world. And you won't be surprised to hear that our campuses all won awards for their various aspects of their tiny house competitions. Sacramento State had a passive cooling system in their tiny house, solar panels, a solar thermal hot water collector, LED lighting. This is the kind of thing that they are thinking about when they're creating these tiny houses. They won these awards, the Best Bathroom Award at Sacramento State. Chico and Fresno won Best Flooring, Best Home Technology, and I'm very glad to see you, President Castro, today, because I need you to explain to me what it meant to win Best Appetizer Award for your tiny home. I don't know what it meant, but I'm sure it was fantastic. So. I also want to thank Secretariat Michelkis, who is so thoughtful and helpful in planning these campus visits, because she arranged for me to travel from San Diego State to Cal Poly Pomona by way of the San Diego Zoo and its 5 world-class aviaries, the Anzo Borrego Desert, which if you have not been there is mind-blowing, and Joshua Tree National Park. I was able to see all 3 of those on my way between these 2 campuses. Those are some of the critters that I actually was able to see in that one day's drive. All of them rare, all of them challenged, but being protected in these wonderful situations. I'm sure you remember that a jackrabbit is a lagomorph from our last word chair report. So I got to Cal Poly Pomona, and President Coley, I can't thank you enough for that amazing visit that I had there. We dined at their fantastic hospitality center, which is part of a real living lab of their tremendous hospitality program. We got up close with another animal there, one of the revered domestic animals in the world, the Arabian horse. I did try the beer sampler at the Innovation Brew Works. That was pretty good, actually. And, but most exciting, as it always is when I'm at these campus visits, I visited their students at something called the Innovation Lab, and I visited their students that were part of their cybersecurity program. And, you know, it is just incredible what they're working on and how they're thinking. And I think I've managed to challenge them to solve the problem of feral and outdoor cats killing 3.4 billion birds a year. So they're on it at Cal Poly Pomona. You know, at the end of my report, I just want to say how thankful I am for our students and our mission, and how grateful I am that we all get to share in working with a purpose and a mission that's sustaining. I did want to say one last thing. I'm always showing you New York Times articles. This one was in a special pull-out section of the New York Times last Sunday, a section on education, and it's called Remembering Noemi. Noemi Gonzalez, you all remember, was a Long Beach design student. She was first in her family to go to college. She was very excited to participate in one of our truly excellent study abroad programs, and that took her a year ago, this last Sunday, to Paris, where she became the victim of that great tragedy there. The New York Times author wrote some wonderful words about Noemi and about the CSU in this article, and I just wanted to read to you one quote from that article. The author said that, quote, Cal State Long Beach, whose enrollment is 95% Californian and more than 1/3 Hispanic, seems to have fostered a keen awareness and responsibility of place, and has given Noemi not only a context in which to flourish, but also the confidence to venture beyond its borders. I am thankful for Noemi and for so many like her here at the CSU, and for this great institution that allows students to live larger lives than they would otherwise, and to choose knowledge over ignorance. Chancellor White?
Well, thank you, Chair Eisen. I echo your words of remembrance for Noemi Gonzalez, who we lost all too soon. As they were a year ago, our thoughts are with her family, her friends, her colleagues, the entire Cal State Long Beach family. And if you haven't yet, I encourage you to find and read the poem, Noemi, A Song for Paris, that U.S. Poet Laureate and friend of the CSU and a friend of mine, Juan Felipe Herrera, wrote last year in her honor. Next month will also mark the 1-year anniversary of the attack in San Bernardino, where countless CSU alumni lost their lives. Our thoughts are with the community and the campus, which continues to embody the San Bernardino strong spirit, support victims and their families, and the campus stands as a beacon of hope for the entire community. Sadly, we must also note the passing of another member of the Cal State Long Beach family, David Dahl, who passed away last month. David served the CSU and Long Beach campus community for nearly 4 decades as a professor of psychology, department chair, dean, vice provost, interim provost, and senior vice president for academic affairs before his retirement from Cal State Long Beach earlier this year. David was deeply and wholly committed to increasing college retention and completion rates, particularly for underrepresented communities. Colleagues said that he was the father of student success at Cal State Long Beach and was relentless in his total commitment to students. David's commitment to students was so thorough that he came back to the CSU to serve as a special advisor for the Graduation Initiative Task Force, supporting our efforts to build a plan that will increase graduation rates and eliminate achievement gaps among our students. This past May, David said that he'd hoped his legacy at Long Beach would be to be, quote, leave the campus in better shape to support the success of all of our students. And certainly David's legacy is echoed in the millions of CSU students and alumni who have benefited and will benefit from his life's work. I know I speak for my colleagues across the CSU when I say that we will miss David, and our thoughts are with his wife, Nancy, and daughters, Maria, Laura, and Julia. As the chair mentioned, November is indeed a month for remembrance, to be thankful and honor those who have given and continue to give so much for our country. In this building and throughout our system, my colleagues and I are honored to work with so many faculty and staff veterans. While the method of service may differ, as a mission-driven endeavor committed to the values of our community, state, and nation, the purpose of service to the CSU is the same. And I am proud that the CSU remains committed to serving student veterans and their families, and that all of our campuses are working to increase access to student veterans. Year after year, our campuses are finding new ways to provide additional support, resources, and services to meet the specific needs of over 19,500 student veterans and dependents earning degrees at the California State University. Sometimes that support is unconventional, like the Disability Sports Festival at Cal State San Bernardino, an annual event that attracts over 500 participants, including disabled military veterans from throughout the Inland Empire and High Desert. This festival is an opportunity for participants to try out new adaptive sports and recreation innovations, and even compete in more than 20 sports and activities. And sometimes the support that campuses provide is non-academic, like the many campuses in our system that designate a social space where student veterans can gather in a private setting, which is critical in building camaraderie, sharing and overcoming challenges, and relieving the stresses unique to the veteran-student experience. In fact, 3 of our campuses, San Bernardino, San Diego, and San Marcos, were recently recognized as top veteran-friendly schools by U.S. Veterans Magazine. These campuses were recognized for their work in creating opportunities for student and alumni veterans in education and in employment. And certainly it is clear that all of our campuses continue to make student veterans an institutional priority to ensure that they are successful along their unique academic, career, and personal paths. On the topic of institutional priorities, I am pleased that our budget ask, as presented to the trustees yesterday, is a clear reflection of our institutional priorities to support world-class faculty and staff, to increase enrollment to serve more qualified Californians, to repair and modernize our aging infrastructure, and to fully implement Graduation Initiative 2025. I spoke earlier this week to a collection of university presidents and chancellors at an association of public and land-grant universities in Austin. And I was joined by State University of New York Chancellor Nancy Zimpher, where we talked about the importance of teacher preparation and support, particularly in regards to the statewide and the nationwide shortage of teachers. In thinking about and preparing for that conversation, I was reminded about how deeply linked the goals of Graduation Initiative 2025 are to the institutional priorities and the founding mission of the California State University. The goal of Graduation Initiative 2025 is not to focus on helping just 30% of our students, or even just 60% of our students. The goal is to help all of our students along their own pathways to academic and life success. Trustee Maggie White said it best yesterday. This initiative is not designed to change students, but rather to change the way we serve our students. I will consider Graduation Initiative 2025 a success if our concerted efforts mean a student who, because of their background, their story of perseverance, and their individual dream-driven path that brought them here, is able to get a CSU degree in 6 years rather than 8. Or 4 years rather than 6. I will consider that a resounding success. Every percentage point improvement is important. Even a handful of percentage points in the right direction, or in the case of our grad rates distribution graphs, in the left direction, will positively and forever impact thousands of students. A single percentage point means that thousands of new alumni are able to go on to graduate school and enter, ultimately, California's workforce or go there directly. It means more nurses, engineers, social workers, teachers are able to work and serve their families, the people of this state, and of this nation. And it means we can get one step closer to ending our degree drought, teacher shortage, and achievement gap. In fact, when we personalize the percentage point improvements shown yesterday, That means an additional 6,000 CSU students, alumni, have earned their degrees and are now working, sustaining, and powering the promise of California. Stealing a line from Dia Poole, maybe we should start calling this the Alumni Creation Initiative. That is the goal of the Graduation Initiative 2025, and we can only fully achieve this goal with adequate budget support from the state of California. So I am hopeful with your support, insights, and guidance, coupled with the voices of students, faculty, staff, alumni, and friends, that our mission-driven message of success will again resonate in the halls of the state capitol and throughout California. Lastly, I too wish to comment on the news of the past few weeks and offer some thoughts and a perspective. First, the campaign rhetoric that we have endured over the past year has had something offensive for everyone, regardless of a person's political ideology. And so today, we are now in a place where the rhetoric of the past starts to evolve into the governing policies going forward. And we've seen some early signs of change, positive and negative. And because of the lack of substantive policy discussions on things that matter for our future during the campaign, there is a lot of uncertainty at best and a sense of fear and vulnerability at worst. There are so many issues going forward that matter to the CSU, including education policy writ large, the reauthorization of the Higher Education Act, along with federal support for research and for low-income students with Pell and TRIO programs. There are concerns about future policies on climate and healthcare, to name just a few. I often say as a university community, we are capable of thriving in a world of ambiguity. But there is more. I believe strongly that the CSU, because of our size and importance to America, can also be a voice that influences the future in positive ways. The CSU voice matters. If our employees and students were a city, we would be the 6th largest city in California, ahead of Sacramento. And if we include our living alumni, we are larger than 21 states in the United States of America. Given our size, we have both an opportunity and a responsibility to lead with our voices. As such, there are areas of immediate concern, and there can be no ambiguity here that we, as the CSU, are a community that embodies inclusivity and excellence. I was so proud to release a statement on November 9th with David Lopez, our CSSA president, addressed primarily to our students along with faculty and staff. Our statement read, "The CSU embraces its diversity in the way in which our students, faculty, and staff achieve excellence through inclusion. We are unequivocally committed to supporting all members of our community. That is who we are. It is a core strength and part of our DNA. Elections are essential to democracy, yet they're not easy. They test our resolve, but also our understanding and compassion. They can be difficult and sometimes even painful, especially for those who hope for a different outcome. Today, many in our community may feel anxious and perhaps vulnerable about their personal future, the future of those they care for, and the future of our nation. It is our duty as a community to listen to each other, to support each other throughout this time. It is also our responsibility to hold our political leaders to account, regardless of party. To meet that obligation, the CSU and the CSSA will together be leading advocates in advancing the rights of our students, faculty, and staff. In this effort, we stand with California's political and civic leaders, our colleagues in the University of California and the California community colleges, and our many peers nationwide who care about and are dedicated to a nation that lives up to its highest principles. Further, as you would expect of us, we've been thinking about the policy discussions of our times. This past July, we provided guidance to campuses that clarified the relationship between our campus law enforcement activities and the U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement Agency. Let me be clear. There is no ambiguity here. We are deeply committed to fostering a campus community that is safe and welcoming for everyone. Primary jurisdiction for federal immigration laws rests with ICE, not with university police, nor any other local municipal law enforcement. Unless we're directed by California government code or required by law, the CSU will not enter into agreements with state or local law enforcement agencies, ICE, or any other federal agency for the enforcement of federal immigration law. Our police departments will not honor ICE immigration hold requests. And our university police do not contact, detain, question, or arrest individuals solely on the basis of being or suspected of being a person that lacks documentation. Further, we are joining hands with our other universities, colleges, and educational associations across America to protect access, affordability, intellectual freedom, inclusivity, and diversity for all students, including supporting our DACA students and the communities that support them. And finally, to our campus presidents, faculty, staff, and students, I couldn't be more proud of you. Each campus has created just the right set of circumstances to allow a cacophony of views to be expressed and provide support to those who seek to do so, interspersed with academic and community discussions and forums of the issues at hand. The voices of nonviolent protest have a sacred place on our campuses, and it will be one of many important forces going forward, just as it has been in the past decades. It is regrettable that, in a few cases, there are participants involved in criminal activity, including vandalism and violence, and the campuses are responding properly with law enforcement and clear notifications as situations warrant. Let me close with a comment directed to those individuals among us, our students, our faculty and staff who feel most vulnerable. Your university supports you. As I look around the room, I see others, the trustees, the presidents, the CSSA, the Academic Senate, the Alumni Council, our labor partners, who will stand together to support you. And when I look across the state, as mentioned earlier, I know we stand with the University of California and the community colleges and many other political and business leaders. Chair Eisen, that concludes my report.
Thank you so much, Chancellor. Dr. Miller, will you provide the report of the Academic Senate?
Certainly. Thank you, Chair Eisen. The Academic Senate of the California State University had its most recent meeting 2 weeks ago, before the election. I've been thinking for days about how to explain what we discussed at that meeting, but personally, like Chair Eisen, I've been so distracted by national, regional, and local dialogues about the election that it's been hard to concentrate on preparing for this report. So I did what I usually do when I'm trying to process something, to make some sense of it. I went to my bookshelves. I am an academic after all, and there's lots of wisdom on those shelves. As I stood there looking over the titles, especially those on my political communications shelf, I wasn't feeling it. I wasn't connecting. I wasn't getting the answers I needed. But then my eye was drawn to another shelf, to a book that stood out because of its size and color. You've probably all seen it before. It was pretty popular a few years ago. I got it as a birthday present. You know, one of those milestone birthdays with a 0 in it. I bet we all have one of those friends who gives us a gag gift on a big birthday. So one of those friends gave me the worst case scenario survival handbook with a card that said, if I could survive this birthday, I could survive anything. It's filled with pearls of wisdom like how to wrestle an alligator, how to escape from killer bees, how to deal with a charging bull. The more I looked over these worst case scenarios, the more I thought they could help me frame this report. Before the election, no matter which candidate someone supported, people thought that if the other candidate won, it would be a worst case scenario the nation would have to survive. Now that the election is over, that worst case scenario has come true for roughly half the electorate. So now what? Well, when I was reading about how to survive snakes and sharks and bears and mountain lions, it occurred to me that there was one potentially dangerous animal omitted from the book. No, not Hillary Rodham Clinton or Donald Trump, but the elephant. There are elephants in this very room. How do we survive them? We talk about them. The first elephant in our room is a Trump presidency. I've heard some people say they're suffering from what Sarah Jones, a Politicus USA writer, calls Trump traumatic stress disorder. I think it's vital to acknowledge the tremendous anxiety many students in the CSU are feeling right now. We've heard a lot of that anxiety expressed outside right now even, and in the public comment earlier today and yesterday. I've heard examples of that anxiety from my colleagues who report that students, particularly our DACA Dreamer students, are shaken to their core and fearful for their future and the future of their families. Remember learning about Maslow's hierarchy of needs? In the context of Maslow's hierarchy, some students are reacting to the threats they perceive to their physical and safety needs, which are the foundational levels of the hierarchy. Until they get some reassurance that those physical and safety needs are met, it will be difficult for faculty to help them move up the hierarchy towards self-actualization that comes from even passing their classes, not to mention earning their degrees. One faculty member likened the discussion in her classroom about the election results to the aftermath of a shooting, where students are struggling to make sense of events. I was heartened to see the joint statement from Chancellor White and CSSA President Lopez, committing to support all members of the CSU community. Some presidents and other campus leaders have issued similar statements of support. As I said, the last Senate meeting occurred prior to the election, so I can't convey an officially endorsed position of the Senate, but personally I'd like to align myself with these commitments to promote inclusion and open dialogue. It's the right thing to do. The second elephant in this room we need to discuss in order to survive is a tuition increase. Even though it wasn't presented to you for formal consideration at this meeting, this elephant has been wandering through this room and making a lot of noise outside. The ASCSU has a resolution in first reading calling for increased funding to the CSU to avert a tuition increase. We note in the resolution that there's been a dramatic disinvestment in the CSU by the state of California, and even a small tuition increase can be a significant burden, especially on those students who are most vulnerable. We pledge to work with CSSA, the Chancellor's Office, and all of you to avert such a prospect, and we will watch closely as events develop. We hope increased state funding can keep this elephant from charging. That's why we unanimously approved a resolution supporting this board's 2017-18 budget request. But we didn't stop there. We made a specific recommendation in that resolution for you to earmark half of the graduation initiative monies to help address the tenure density problem. In the past, when the state of California targeted $11 million for tenure track hiring, the funds were commingled with student success efforts, and it wasn't clear that the $11 million was used to hire faculty over and above what would have already been planned. We think specifically earmarking funds from the graduation initiative to tenure track hiring will ensure that the goals of the initiative itself can be met. As Jeff Gold said yesterday, our faculty are at the center of student success. So, no amount of simplifying paperwork for graduation, no microloan for non-payment, and no data dashboard can substitute for the impact that tenure track faculty have on student success. We encourage you to target part of the funds for the grad initiative toward improving tenure density. The ASCSU looks forward to joining in the advocacy for the support budget so that the grad initiative can get funded and a tuition increase isn't necessary. Now, I want to turn away from my pachyderm metaphor and talk about some of the recommendations the Senate made, which we hope will help students not just survive, but thrive. They're intended to move students up Maslow's hierarchy towards self-actualization and degree attainment. One resolution addresses ACR 158 by Assemblymember Holden, and it reaffirms the Senate's perennial commitment to improving student transfer within and among California's 3 higher education segments. Another resolution was in response to a coded memorandum on C- grades in courses in the Golden Four. We suggest following the rules for GE credit from the institution where the student completed the course. A third resolution finishes the Senate's review of the work of the Quantitative Reasoning Task Force. We've officially now endorsed all of the recommendations included in the task force report, and we encourage the Chancellor's Office to begin implementing those recommendations. One key recommendation is that a Center for the Advancement of Instruction in Quantitative Reasoning be established. We think such a center will be a critical catalyst for engaging in the conversations necessary to achieve the principle that guided the work of the task force. That principle was to balance access and opportunity to achieve equity. A center would allow for the sustained system-level attention to pedagogy, evidence of learning at entry for both freshmen and transfer students, and support for high schools offering courses in quantitative reasoning. We'd like to see the necessary conversations get started, and if one of those conversations should be here with you, just let us know, because we always welcome the opportunity to talk about how curricula can better prepare students to succeed in their lives, which in turn serves the interests of the state of California. In that same vein of how curricula serve students throughout their lives and promote the interests of the state, the Senate is also recommending the formation of a task force to examine general education. We're aware of the interest by people in this room and in that big domed building in Sacramento who've raised questions about, among other things, the clarity of GE requirements. We think there are important issues such a task force can engage, and the resolution articulates the scope of some of that work. It also includes membership from this body, and so I hope it's supported by you and by Chancellor White. Finally, I'd like to address one more issue that relates to the interests of the state of California, the achievement gap. Yesterday, James Miner provided the most recent data estimating that the achievement gap is actually increasing for underrepresented minority and Pell-eligible students. Of course, we all want to see the trend data going in the opposite direction toward Chancellor White's moonshot to erase the achievement gap. I want to re-invite you then to something I've mentioned to you before, the academic conference. It's going to be held on the San Diego State campus on February 9th and 10th, and the theme is Closing the Achievement Gap. I hope all board members and presidents are there to put our collective heads together to engage this issue. I think one of the worst case scenarios for the state of California is if the achievement gap keeps getting wider. If it does, there may have to be another chapter that needs to be added to that book. On that note, I'll leave you with a paraphrase of the immortal words of Gloria Gaynor. Will we crumble? Will we lay down and die? Oh, no, not us. We will survive. Oh, as long as we know how to teach, we know we'll stay alive. We will survive, and they will thrive. Thank you. That concludes my report.
Thank you very much, Chair Miller. President Lopez, can you deliver the report of the CSSA?
Thank you, Chair Eisen. Good morning, and as always, CSSA is grateful for the opportunity to give a report and have a platform for the student voice at these Board of Trustees meetings. Since the last CSU Board of Trustees meeting, we have held 2 CSSA plenary meetings in which our discussions primarily revolved around the potential tuition increase and our continued work on our ambitious policy agenda. During our CSSA meeting in October, the governing board met at Fresno State and were given information on the potential tuition increase proposal. This information included a presentation that was presented by the CSSA executive officers and the CSU student trustees. The governing board not only discussed the proposal, but also passed a definition for shared governance. The definition that the governing board passed is that shared governance is the right to consistent collaboration among students, faculty, staff, and administration in making any decisions that impacts the campus and its community. During our most recent CSSA board meeting, which was held at CSU Channel Islands, our governing board continued the discussion on the potential tuition increase proposal. The governing board had the opportunity to engage directly with Chancellor White, Executive Vice Chancellor Blanchard, and Assistant Vice Chancellor Storm. After expressing concerns and asking clarifying questions with the Chancellor's office leadership, the CSSA governing board took that information and developed potential advocacy plans to fight for students through various methods, such as film-baking events or in-district lobby visits. I would like to end my report with a discussion on the potential tuition increase and how an increase will be detrimental to our students. But before I get into that, I would like to echo Trustee Carney's comment and encourage the Board of Trustees to develop a committee based off of what the students are requesting. This is a crucial time for all of us, and all of our students need to feel safe. The last time I spoke to y'all, I called upon the state legislator to fully invest in the CSU because the students of the CSU are California's future. 2 months later, I still call upon the state legislature to fully invest in the CSU so that we can better serve our students and so that we can promote their successes now and into the future. We are in this position of adding more to our students' debt because the state has disinvested in CSU students. Now it is time to reinvest in students and in turn in California. Our students are exceptional, they are unique, and they deserve for the state to recognize all that they have to offer and support them accordingly. You heard our students speak during public comment. Now it's time to come together and put pressure on our state, just how they do to us. With this being said, students and faculty from across the CSU system have submitted their stories to CSSA's potential tuition increase website, which is tuition.calstatestudents.org, and have provided some insight into the variety of challenges a tuition increase would create or amplify. A freshman from Fullerton expressed concern that her parents are already struggling to pay for 2 kids in college, while another student from San Bernardino is worried that she is working at a job that pays minimum wage now to afford college, and on top of that, will be strapped with debt payments as she enters into a traditionally lower paying but noble job as a teacher. Another student from Monterey Bay states that the CSU system was created for the common people, such as first-generation students who do not have the resources or guidance needed in order to succeed in college. A faculty member from Chico State wanted the Board of Trustees to know that the students who are a part of the School of Education graduate program will suffer from this tuition increase because many of the students will get very little financial return on their degree. The financial challenges of pursuing a college degree are real. Recent research suggests that being in student loan debt negatively affects the psychological and emotional well-being of those in debt and discourages entrepreneurship. It is hard to imagine a healthy and thriving California economy when our fellow Californians are suffering both financially and emotionally. But it does have to be this way. But it doesn't have to be this way. Our CSU students are passionate and ambitious. They are caring and selfless. CSU students are the future leaders of the state, and that's great news for California. The bad news is that without the state's full investment in our students, many of them will find themselves unable to handle the financial and emotional burden that is increasingly associated with getting a college degree. With that, Chair Eisen, I conclude my report. Thank you.
Thank you, President Lopez. President Poole, can you deliver the alumni report?
Certainly. Thank you, Chair Eisen, and good morning, everyone. I would like to add my voice to the chorus yesterday, congratulating the team in academic and student affairs, and especially Jeff Gold, on the monumental task of the new dashboards that they rolled out. I watched the graphic of the icons of students moving toward graduation with great interest because each one represents a future alumnus, someone whose experiences in and outside of the classroom will shape their lifelong relationship with the university. Someone who, with proper stewardship and opportunities for involvement, can reach back and improve the opportunities for the students and soon-to-be alumni coming behind them. Many of the icons also represent people who are currently alumni, so I'm proud today to be one of the green people depicted on the graph. There were several questions that arose in the discussion about the journey that green people took as they moved toward graduation. I'm sure that alumni would be open to sharing more about their path if that would be helpful moving forward. Tomorrow, leaders of the Alumni Council will meet with Dr. Miners and others from the Graduation Initiative 2025 team to plan the next steps of how our 3.3 million alumni can be a part of moving more of our students toward graduation and successfully launching their careers. As Dr. Miner mentioned yesterday, the Alumni Council spring meeting will be dedicated to formalizing how we can achieve win-win of enhancing student success by offering meaningful volunteer opportunities to our alumni. We will be encouraging our campus alumni directors to familiarize themselves with their campus plans and to seek out opportunities for alumni engagement in these efforts. I'd like to thank Dr. Blanchard, Dr. Miner, and their team. We are very excited about the synergy and, of course, the 500,000 new alumni that will result from this partnership. Last week, I had the opportunity to attend one of our system-wide alumni events, the Southern California Alumni Mega Mixer, which was held in Irvine. Over 350 alumni and friends from 17 campuses registered for this sold-out event. The power of the CSU network was in full force as alumni networked both personally and professionally. This was a powerful reminder of the great things that can happen when you put CSU alumni together in a room. They met with representatives from the campuses to find more ways to become involved on campus and to support the university. I truly want to thank our CSU Long Beach student assistant here at the Chancellor's office, Sam Camarena, for organizing that event. He did a great job as a student, and our student association should be really proud of him. We look forward to our upcoming system-wide alumni receptions in Washington, D.C. and New York in the spring. Briefly regarding budget advocacy, the Alumni Council recently attended our budget advocacy training conference at Cal State Fullerton, and we look forward to being an active advocate on behalf of the trustees' 2017-18 budget request. We believe the additional funding above the governor's proposed increase is absolutely essential for increasing access to qualified students, enhancing student success program, and investing in our people and infrastructure. We will be among the list of supporters alongside our students as we showcase the value of state investment in the California State University system. Today, in further recognition of our CSU family of veterans, I'm very proud to introduce our alumni guest speaker, Sergeant Michael Bailey. Sergeant Bailey is a 2015 graduate of Cal Poly Pomona with a degree in political science. He currently attends law school with future ambitions of serving his community by being a public defender. Sergeant Bailey served in the United States Marine Corps from 1998 to 2009 and was deployed 3 times, twice in combat. Sergeant Bailey currently is the outreach coordinator for Cops for Kids and Communities, a nonprofit that provides opportunities to disadvantaged youth. He comes from the CSU family. His father is a dean at Cal Poly San Luis Obispo, and his mother is a faculty member. We're so honored to have Sergeant Bailey with us today to share his CSU story. Sergeant Bailey, welcome.
Thank you, friend. Thank you. I want to thank the Board of Trustees for letting me come here, Chancellor, teachers, staff, and of course the students. They're playing this beautiful music as we're all here. I guess I'm the closer, so this is the feel-good story. So I will tell the story as feel-good as I can. And, I've been a part of the CSU family since I was a child. All I remember is going to Cal Poly San Luis Obispo events. I remember Poly Royal, I think it was supposed to be called. I remember, thank you, Bud Light. I'm sorry, open house now. But I remember my parents entertaining students on almost a weekly basis. And as a child, it didn't really mean anything to me except for there were just more people in the house. So I had to fight for, less food. Kind of annoying at times, but I got over it. In 1996, I graduated from high school, and much to my parents' chagrin, in 98, I joined the Marine Corps. That was probably the worst day of their lives dealing with me, but they got through it very, very well. 11 years later, I decided to hang it up. And in 2009, I searched for a college. I got into a community college in which I acted like a community college student does. I showed up to school, I did my work, and I left. I applied to Cal Poly Pomona. I got accepted, kind of. I got an acceptance letter, but I didn't really pay attention to it. It wasn't until I got a phone call from the Veterans Resource Center asking me if I wanted to come to Cal Poly. And I was like, yeah, that's why I applied. I wanted to come to Cal Poly. Well, I needed a lot of paperwork done, and I needed a lot of work in order to get it. The Veterans Resource Advisor, Elke Espetia, took the time and effort to get all of my paperwork done, to pay attention to my problems that I had, and to get me into school. Without her, I wouldn't be sitting here. I'd probably still be in community college, wondering what I was going to do with my life. I thought that was just going to be a singular action. One person helping me out, and that's just the way it's going to be. For the next year, I realized the faculty, the staff, all were there to help me out. I had never been in a large institution where individual people would go out of their way in order to get you to that next level to help you out. I was so inspired by it that I became a Veterans Resource Advisor for my next 2 years. Outside of that, I also, when I left Cal Poly Pomona, I had an internship that helps military members go from a military ideology in business to more of a civilian ideology in business. And the only reason I got even looked at for that was because the Veterans Resource Center pointed me at that direction. All in all, I came to a realization, I think on my second year, that what I thought Cal Poly was as a child was my parents engaging with students at the home, engaging with students at school. I didn't know that that was still there that many years later. From when I was age 2 to when I was 36, I saw the same things inherent in a completely different college as well. Cal Poly San Luis Obispo, I'm going to Cal Poly Pomona. Being able to share that with my parents and saying, you know what you guys did is still being done today. I applaud the presidents for allowing the teachers to do that. I applaud the trustees and the chancellor to allow the presidents to let their schools create, I would say, small places inside the colleges where people like veterans and you got SQE to find their place to be able to become successful in these institutions. It's made me a lot of who I am today, not as brash and a lot nicer, a lot easier to get along with. I'm at a final thing. I know most of the students left, but I spent 11 years in the Marine Corps. I spent time in Iraq. I spent time in Africa, and I saw a lot of interesting and not so wonderful things. But one of my most favorite things is if I am walking to and away from something and I see a protest, the reason why I serve is what you guys are practicing. I appreciate it, I applaud it, and keep it up. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sergeant Bailey. We are very proud to have you as a member of the CSU alumni family. We thank you for your service to our country, your community, and to the California State University. Thank you for coming today. I would like, on behalf of the Alumni Council, to extend our condolences to alumni trustee John Nylon, who you notice is not at our meeting today. John lost his mother, I believe, this past week, and so we just want him and his family to know that we are keeping him and them in our hearts and prayers, and we ask you to do the same. And finally, I would like to welcome back our former Alumni Council Executive Committee member, Jimmy Thompson. She is an alum of Cal State Dominguez Hills. Welcome back, Jimmy. I see you got the Green People memo today, so good job. Another wonderful alum. Chair Eisen, that concludes my report. Thank you.
Thank you so much, President Poole. Wonderful report as usual. And thank you, Sergeant Bailey. If that was a closer, I would say it was a closer and a half. We really appreciated it. Thank you. It's now time for the board to consider the items listed on the consent agenda. All of the committee items requiring full board approval are listed on the consent agenda. Does any trustee wish to remove any item from the consent agenda for separate discussion? All right. May I have a motion then to approve all of the items listed on the consent agenda? Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? The items listed on the consent agenda are approved. This concludes the business of the Board of Trustees. The board will reconvene for their next regularly scheduled meeting on January 31st through February 1st. Notice of the meeting will go out in the ordinary course 10 days in advance of those meetings. Thank you all very much.
The California State University Office of the Chancellor's live stream. Please adjust your audio accordingly.